Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jordan. Welcome. I believe in bettering yourself every single day, even if that's only by 0.05%. If you understand compounding interest, that small subtle change, even on a daily basis, can have a tremendous impact in the long run. Jumping into today's topic is the best decision I've ever made for my health, my well-being, and just so many things could have gone wrong if I decided one way or another. And that is to stay natural, meaning no exogenous hormone usage, no PEDs, etc., etc. Now, I know that is a hot button topic these days, especially with social media, bodybuilding, influencers, Natty or not. I don't think there's ever been a time where the pressure to look good and look good 24/7 has ever been this prevalent in just society in general for men and for women due to the oversharing on social media, just quick dopamine like addictions, instant gratification. And this kind of plays into this as well. Obviously, a lot of newbies in the gym are looking for the best ways to see results quickly, right? They want it now, they wanted it yesterday. Well, it doesn't really work like that, does it? Before we kind of jump into the nitty-gritty, a little bit about my background is when I was in high school, I was probably shy of a buck 50 at 5'10". I was nothing impressive. I was not blessed with the genetic grace of Greek gods. I was a skinny fat, small stature build, and I had barely had any muscle on my frame whatsoever. I was always very active. I played sports all throughout high school and even before that. So I was definitely athletic, but I never really had a amazing physique, and I was kind of plagued with those skinny fat genetics. I really started hitting the weights my senior year in high school after a lot of just body image issues, some emotional distress, and just kind of just being tired of being that skinny kid. And when you see bodybuilders and you see these people who are just super jacked and chiseled, it really inspires you to want to make a change for the better, right? Any newbie who's kind of getting into the gym sees these just mass monsters, and it never really crosses your mind in the beginning because there's a lot of maybe ignorance, or you're just completely unaware or oblivious of maybe what is going on with that specific individual or what it took to get there. And you don't really have this concept in the very beginning. I was tired of being a walking stick, so I decided to do something about it. And I really put my heart, soul, and effort into changing my body for the better. So I got on a super strict regimen. I started lifting weights extremely consistently. And within about 6 months, I put on 30 pounds. And I was looking like a freaking D-ball gangster. The newbie gain train was just flowing. At that point, I was bitten by the iron bug. There was no turning back. Furthermore, I lifted for about 10 more years extremely consistently leading up till now. Jumping back to the natural topic, did I ever think about it? Crossing that line, coming to the dark side? Were my friends doing it? Were my role models doing it? Were people at the gym doing it? Well. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. In those beginning stages, when I was still kind of like a newbie lifter, I wasn't really thinking about it that much, and it wasn't a vast topic that I was pondering or even considering, due to the fact that the gains were just insane. Like the first year to two, there's almost no reason, because it makes absolutely no sense to cross that line. Like if the gain train is still flowing full steam ahead, what is the purpose of you potentially doing something and taking on like extra risk? And at this time in my like lifting career, it never really crossed my mind. It wasn't something I was even entertained, especially like when I was dirty bulking and I was just blowing up, just getting stronger, bigger. It's like there's no resistance there to spur that decision on. If everything else was aligned properly, which for me it was, right? My training, my diet, the discipline, consistency, etc. Now, after about 3 to 4 years of lifting, things changed a little bit. Some ideas kind of started flying around my head. I was really starting to maybe ponder here or there, this or that, and kind of doing some research. I did end up competing in a men's physique competition, and long story short, I pretty much got smoked by a trend monster. I did place, I did decent, and I did look great. But in this competitive environment, the question starts to come up, well, how do these guys look so good? What are they doing to get there, right? Some more time went on and I actually started even considering it. I even got my blood work done, and I was almost like hoping that my test would be low so that I can get like prescribed, TRT, that's a whole another topic. But everything checked out. My test was actually pretty good. There was literally a point in time where there was like many debates going on inside my head, like on a weekly basis. Like, I'm just gonna hop on. I'm just gonna do it. I wanted to do more research. I already was pretty familiar on substances, topics, cycles, dosages, obviously sides, risks. I mean, there's so many questions that come up with this topic, and there's no really cookie cutter answer for any of it. There's so much nuance on it. Just even on certain substances, right? You could probably talk for hours. But there's just so much to it. Those mental battles in my head were really tough. Like, I really had to consider and use my logic and not make any emotional decisions or make a decision based on someone else's opinions or views or whatever, or letting social media or YouTube or friends or anyone influence me to make the decision. That had to come from me and really honing in on that mentally and really understanding the full implications, because I already knew the type of person I am, and I would like it too much. It wouldn't be use. It would probably be abuse. And this is something that you really do see super common today in the fitness industry. There's just so much to unpack here with just PEDs in general, right? Like, there is, where are you getting it from? The source. Is it pure? What substance? Is what you're taking actually what you're getting? Cycle types. How long? Is it even legal where you're at? The safety, how efficacious, dosage. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Long-term impacts, health impacts, short-term impacts, psychological impacts. I mean, lifestyle, right? There's scheduling, a lot of maintenance, cost. There's so much to weigh out here. And then at the end of the day, we know that the science behind PEDs, right? It's not conducive to your longevity here on this planet. Point and simple. Even if you're using efficaciously, if you're a young male, there is going to be risk involved there, right? You are going to be suppressing your natural test. Yes, there's ways around that, but that brings up a whole nother can of worms. There's always risk, and we have seen the horror stories. They are out there on the internet. You know where to find them. You can look into it. It gets ugly quick, especially when people are like not doing it under supervision. They're kind of like willy-nilly. They definitely don't have a doctor's supervision. They're probably not even monitoring their blood work very well. And obviously there's a lot of like cardiac impacts, blood pressure, hypertension, high red blood cell count. I mean, there's just so much there that you need to consider. even like injection site. You can get infections. I mean, there's just so much baggage that comes along with this. And let's face it, when people say, oh, just do one cycle, it's not going to hurt, right? It's not going to be one cycle. That's the problem. There is an extremely fine line between use and abuse, and most people probably can't regulate that, especially how good you're going to feel, how good you're going to look. It's just a whole perpetuating cycle, and you don't want to be on that, especially if your goal is longevity and long-term health impact. Definitely something that you need to consider. Another thing is I really started to ask myself, like, why? What is the real reason why I'm even entertaining this, right? Is it for me? Is it for others? Am I not getting gains anymore? Am I plateaued? What's the reason? And the risk to reward balance for me just doesn't make any sense. And I had to do this very carefully without making an emotional decision, because there was points in time, like I said, on a weekly basis, I was like debating this in my head. It was like brutal. Now that I'm kind of past that like mental battle in my head, I know I made the right decision, and it's also the right decision for me and my health and my family, my longevity. And I don't need any substance to help me achieve what I want to get or the goals that I'm looking for. I could achieve a great physique naturally. I do not need to take any hormones. I'm happy with the way I look, and I know that I can always improve that over time without the use of anything. And to be honest, like at this point, even though I've been lifting for 10 years, I'm not plateaued. I'm still getting like denser muscle. I'm still increasing my strength. I'm changing my strategies. There's almost no need for me to put my health at risk just to achieve a specific aesthetic, because to be honest, I can achieve those aesthetics without that, right? I'm not going to be stepping on the Olympia stage. That's not my goal. So it does not make any sense for me to put myself in harm's way just to maybe put 15, 20 pounds of more mass on my frame. And is putting 15 to 20 pounds of lean contractile tissue on my frame going to be conducive to my longevity? The answer is no. There is so much misinformation out there about anabolics and substance use, and a lot of just kind of like gym bro science on it. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've seen the horror stories. I know people who've been injured. It's just brutal. And you probably want to stay away from that at all costs. And something that I see way too frequently, and for some reason I feel like it's getting more common, especially in the last few years, is these younger guys in the gym who they look like they haven't even been lifting for a year or two. Like they're probably 18 years old. And I see them use anabolics and just completely blow up. But like they look like little D-ball gangsters, and it's super obvious. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, why are you doing that to yourself at that point in your fitness journey, right? You're young, your testosterone is high. Why are you doing that? And a lot of it is, I mean, to be honest, I think it is a lot of social influence from social media, and a lot of people kind of like getting famous from their physique, and that is like enticing more people to do it. But unfortunately, the harmful effects of like substance abuse is probably something that is, I mean, it is something that is super hard to track, because obviously people aren't coming to their doctor and telling them, hey, I'm taking, so X, Y, and Z, this, and this at these dosages for this long. Most people are going to keep that a secret. So it's really hard to track like scientifically, like, oh, hey, we're seeing, let's say, a 10% increase in anabolic usage in the young population. What kind of effect is this going to have later down the road? Super duper hard to track that. But you can see the correlation trend with bodybuilders dying young. And there's been quite a handful of them recently in the past couple years that have died very, very young, despite they were in very good shape. A lot of cardiac issues, a lot of heart attacks, et cetera, et cetera. And these, we only know about them because they were very famous and they had like a huge following online. And imagine how many people are experiencing these negative externalities from using substances, and you never hear about it, right? It doesn't get documented properly. And that is kind of like the silent issue with this whole anabolic topic is how do we even track that properly? And most people who are on gear look like shit. So, and they're doing like a lot of other substances along with it, like drinking a lot, drugs and et cetera, et cetera. Obviously that who knows what type of damage is being done to those individuals. And we'll probably never really get a good study on that. There's a lot of obviously issues with that. Another thing too that's like really funny is when you survey like women on like pictures of physiques, most women do not want a absolute just sazul juice head king. They usually gravitate someone towards a physique that is more like natural, aesthetic, cut and lean, not necessarily like a mass monster. Now, to be fair, there's some nuance here because the photos that they always choose are like dry, lean, stage ready, and even bodybuilders who are like mass monsters aren't necessarily going to be looking like that 24/7 because they're not prepping for a show, right? Or they're wearing different clothes that aren't tight. And there's a lot of nuance there because a lot of times when you're like a natural athlete and you're lean and you're really aesthetic, when you wear like normal clothing, you're like undercover, you're like it's hard to tell that you even lift sometimes depending on what you're wearing. Now, yes, you can wear some schmediums and kind of like pop out if you really want to, but to each his own. To recap, the main reasons why I did not move forward is the risk to reward balance was completely off, and mainly because I want to stay as fertile as possible. I want to have kids. I want the most longevity out of my life, the most health. Cardiovascular problems run in my family, so I definitely want to avoid that negative externality. And why would I do that when I can get what I want, like physically, my physique and my stature and my strength? I'm already where I want to be. Why would I like risk? When all is considered, I made the right decision for me. Now, I know that decision might not make sense for other individuals, but at the end of the day, you need to make the best choice for you. And for me, the long-term health impacts, the potentiality of damaging permanent effects and outweighing the pros and cons, it just does not make sense for me. And it honestly was a great decision for me because I don't want to jeopardize my future just to get something in the now. And I don't need that. I don't want that. Unfortunately, I think a lot of young men are making a mistake in hopping on anabolics way too early, and they maybe don't understand the risks or the impacts. Maybe they do, but they really need to ask themselves, why are they doing it? What is the real purpose behind it? When women take anabolics, things can get ugly really quickly. Really quick, especially with their voice. Watch out. Watch out. One more little nuance is that I know that these substances have their use cases, and especially for someone who's older, who their testosterone is low, and they do need some HRT or TRT to bring them up into the natural range so that they are more functionable. But those people are usually older, and when you're staying in that natural range, it's a lot different when you're taking anabolics for performance enhancement, because typically you're taking them to be above this natural range, and then that's where a lot of these sides come into play. yes, there is a great use case, but what is also really common these days is younger individuals hopping on TRT, basically putting them on the high level of the natural range, even when they're maybe in their 20s or 30s, for, a lot of the, they're trying to achieve the benefits of having a very consistent hormone level, and it's not fluctuating up and down, for mood, clarity, performance, etc., libido, etc., etc. But the problem is since they are still taking an exogenous source, they are still going to be suppressing their own hormonal system, which also still can have some negative impacts, as well as maybe even some risk for cancer. That is a whole nother discussion, and there's a lot of nuance there, and research with that as well. But again, that does not make sense. And obviously, I'm a young man, so I wouldn't even want to even consider that route either. But I do know a lot of people who are on that path. Thank you guys for watching. I don't want to make this too long-winded. If you did like the video, drop a comment below, hit the thumbs up, consider subscribing, but drop in the comments below. Have you guys ever considered taking anabolics? Why, when, how? I know it's super duper common. So just kind of wanted to throw my 2 cents out there. Thank you.